Yes,
Like this meeting reclined.
still thinking,
It's funny.
but we're not far away. Remembering the salt.
I know. That one day.
The lounge too much.
We haven't had a full house for a while.
Oh, you looked very quiet when I watched the recording.
Welcome all to extraordinary meeting of council number 4533. Can I ask you all to be upstanding? I'd like to show my respect and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, of elders past, present and emerging. The General Manager will do the prayer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We thank you, Lord, for the honour of being called by our fellow citizens to this office of honour and trust. Give us grace diligently and honourably, free from private interest or prejudice, to discharge the duties entrusted to us to the common good and as in your sight. Through you, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Please be seated. The proceedings of all council meetings in open session, including all debate and addresses by the public, are recorded and webcast live on council's website for the purposes of facilitating community access. Website archives are stored and available to the public on council's website. The recordings may be disclosed under the provisions of the Government Information Public Access Act of 2009, the GIPA Act. Members of the public attending a council meeting may have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded, publicly broadcast and archived, or as an observer or any other interested party, members of the public consent to the use of their image, voice and personal information. Councillors, there are no apologies today. Is there any declarations of interest? Not, I will move to, we've only got a couple of items and reports here today. Item 1.1 in the council reports is the draft 2024-2025 operational plan and budget. Moved Councillor Quinn, seconded Councillor Prieston. Councillor Quinn, any discussion? No? Any further discussion, councillors? Councillor Williams.
Yes, I've got a few questions.
Questions?
Yep, or comments. In relation to page 2, where halfway down it's urban environments attract business, In the second column, the reference to the Henley Precinct Master Plan, which is good master plan, but it says implement. I think that needs to be qualified in some way to ensure the residents are aware that it has a journey to go to get funding to deliver on that. So I think that might be useful to do. And over on page 26, there's a reference halfway down the page to investigate feasibility of the AFL use of Buffalo Creek Reserve. I noticed that that is mentioned in the second item on the business paper. However, it hasn't really been formally adopted by council, nor has councillors been able to have the information which the Sport and Rec Committee have had through briefings, etc. So I think that's probably a bit premature, and we need to be aware that there's not much scope or understanding around the table here of what's proposed. On page 28, there's a duplication at the bottom of the page, which can just be struck out. And if I go across to the detailed works program, I note that Paul Street nor Milling or Alban, which many residents have commented to me about, are still not included there. Upgrade of.
Excuse me, Councillor Williams, what page are you referring to on that last item?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
54.
Thank you.
Down the bottom. Oh, look, sorry, the table there. I've raised it before, but when you get on the list. Upgrade of community buildings, Boronia Park. Quite sure what $50,000 in which building we're talking about there. Again, I haven't seen any details in relation to the $70,000 to be spent on extending Oval 2. And basically, that's my questions or comments.
Thank you, councillor Williams. Most of those seem to be comments, but I'll let the general manager reply if he wants to.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'll just try and go through them one by one. I guess probably looking for clarity about any suggestions, councillor Williams, about where it says implement Hanley Precinct Master Plan Works Program. If I sincerely took your comments in context, I'm assuming that you would like to see some wording added subject to the availability of grant funding.
Or just the word progressive.
Yeah,
Progressively implement. Because the way it reads there could be an expectation. that
Sure.
we're able to do this really quickly, but I
Yep.
think we all appreciate it's a big job and finances need to be applied.
yep, that's fair. We did, in regards to the missing streets and the capital works program, I guess we did during the briefings for the budget ask at great length about anything that was missing on the capital works program. So that's the first that I've heard of a concern about that street, but we could take that on board and obviously give some due consideration of that whilst we're out on public exhibition.
Yeah, well, I guess you might have missed the email I sent, or the SMS I sent with half a dozen photos.
Sure. Yeah. And the double up obviously is a topographical issue. With regards to the AFL, I think it's important to point out, and I just need to get that specific page. So please.
Page 26.
I think the key here, councillor Williams, is investigate the feasibility and develop a concept. Doesn't say anything about doing, implementing or putting in. It's very much in a scoping phase, and as is reflected in the minutes of the Sport and Rec Committee, the AFL now are actually paying for some feasibility studies around a whole matter of things, particularly around traffic. Where, we're obviously quite conscious that council are going to need some quite detailed information before we even get to a situation of considering a full activation of that field. So I just want to stress that that's very specific why it says investigate and develop a concept. Doesn't say anything about coming straight back for approval. There's a lot of work to be done there, but I will say this, we do have an oval there that is significantly underutilised. So I think it's prudent on us to do those investigations.
Councillors, any other questions or discussion? Councillor Sanderson.
Yes, Councillor Williams picked up most of what I was going to ask, but on page 55 of the business paper, there's curb and gutter in Park Road. Will that have any impact on parking in that stretch on the eastern side of Park Road between Princess and High Street?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll let the Director of Infrastructure answer that question.
No, it shouldn't. It's only from the intersection between Ryde Road and Park Road. So further up, it's not going. We won't be reshooting.
Okay, so there'll still be that right angle parking.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, good.
That is Councillor Sanderson.
Yes, I think so. Probably the other questions I have probably relate more to the budget.
Thank you, Councillor Sanderson. Any other questions, councillors, or anyone wishing to speak for or against the motion? If not, rather reply, Councillor Quinn. If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, that is carried unanimously. We now move to item 1.2, the draft 2024-2025 budget, including long-term financial plan fees and charges. Is there a mover of the motion? Moved, Councillor Quinn. Seconded, Councillor Crassoy. Any discussion, Councillor Quinn?
No, Mr. Mayor.
No. Any discussion for or against or questions, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against, That is carried unanimously. Item 1.3, minutes of the Sports and Recreation Advisory Committee on page 176. Is that, we've got a mover?
Just a technical issue.
Yes.
Was there a quorum for that meeting?
From memory, we did have a quorum, yes. From manager, you're present at that meeting?
Yes, we did, Mr. Mayor.
We did? Okay, yes, we did. Any questions, councillors? Question, councillor Williams?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in the document or the appendix, it talks about a mobile phone data acquisition process. And I noted the dates in that was during COVID.
Mhm.
So it's from 1919 through to 2022, I think. And I just think that maybe those results are a little bit skewed because people couldn't travel at that time. Also, people tended to go to the closest facility, and there was an extremely high usage of our facilities during that period. So I'm just a bit curious as to what would be the normal circumstances in relation to that data set.
I might pass to the general manager. There was discussion about that at the committee, I might add. And the consultant did have some commentary around the data set not always being they as I understand it, they don't always take just the local data. It's treated so that you can actually get a good indication over time whether or not locals use certain areas. So it wasn't actually designed for people out of area coming into Hunters Hill and seeing how many people use Baronia Park, for example. But I'll let the general manager elaborate.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Williams, it's not a straightforward answer tonight. I'd actually have to get some more technical data from the consultant on that to give you an informed answer, but I'm happy to take it on notice and come back to you at the next meeting if that's sufficient.
He did at the time, as I say, I probably didn't articulate very well, but he did sort of walk the committee through how that data was treated during COVID, and they've had to do that obviously throughout a lot of their consultancies around, you know, use of fields. Got a further question, Councillor Williams?
It relates to that issue around the AFL plan. I would appreciate the briefing that has been given by AFL to the committee to be given to councillors.
I'm sure that can be circulated.
In hearing what they propose.
Sure, that can be circulated, councillor. Councillors, just noting we don't have a mover and a seconder to this motion yet. Anyone move? Councillor Quinn moved, seconded Councillor Prieston. Any discussion or further questions, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. Item 1.4, review of Hunters Hill Council Outdoor Sports and Recreation Plan on page 182 of the paper. Moved Councillor Crassoy, seconded Councillor Prieston. Councillor Crassoy.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It was a good read. And I have already made some notes that I'm happy to share during the consultation period. All I would ask with some hope before it goes out to consultation is that we do include an acknowledgement of country at the start of the paper.
Thank you, councillor. I'm sure that we can add that to the document. Councillors, any further discussion, questions? Councillor Williams.
Page 226. It's referred to in Baronia Park, the second item down, the dot points. I'm just wondering, that's a heavily used walking track area, whether or not that should be added in there to reflect the important usage of the Great North Walk and all the other auxiliary tracks which are provided through Baronia Park. It doesn't cover those activities.
Mentions it a few times.
Right.
Does mention it a few times.
But,
In item 2 on page 226, being Baronia Park, you're saying that you'd like to add a dot point.
Yeah, well, it talks about strategy and then actions. These are the things we're going to do, but it doesn't make any reference to the importance or the emphasis we might place on the walking tracks in that, which are quite significant.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'm not sure. We're talking on page 226.
And then
Section 8.3, field sports.
Yeah, then there's Bedlam Bay, and then under that is Baronia Park, and the actions that are proposed in the strategy.
Yeah, I read this as being actions applicable to the actual playing fields.
Which is the title of the section, councillor Williams. Just-
Okay.
Councillors, any other questions, clarifications? Councillor Sanderson.
Yes, well, thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I have a bit of concern, similar to councillor Williams, in one of the other matters that the first I've seen this report was on Wednesday when we received the business paper, and a fair bit of effort has gone into this, and I really think council should have been brought into this at a sooner time. There are many areas I think I could have contributed to the construction of the document, and it would seem that'll have to come over the period that's on exhibition. One thing I was going to comment on is in the area relating to demand, and this is something I looked at very closely when NESROC came out with their original sports policy or revised it in 2017. At that point in time, I think Hunters Hill per capita was second to Ku-ring-gai in terms of the sports field it was providing. It now appears from the data in this modified NESROC report that we're actually first. Our projected deficiency in Hunters Hill is by the data that they've got, it's about 19%. Ku-ring-gai is now about 21%, and this ranges up to understandably 76 for North Sydney. So that I thought that needs to be put into a bit of perspective. The other things that there were various things that need to be rectified. It says, well, one is there currently no change rooms at Loads. Well, that's fairly obvious, and that could be better explained, I think, in the paper. That is on for the officer's notice. That's on page 204 of the business paper. On page 206, it says there's no drainage on Wheel Park. Well, as I understand, Wheel Park was closed for a short time ago, and it now has sand-slip drainage. Then in the yes, there's some errors in naming this is on page 208 on the business paper. These are things that should be corrected before it goes out. It refers to Henley Precinct and then gives the address in Kelly Street. They're actually referring to the second green at the community centre, and that's on page 208. Then we go through to it says there's on page 210. It refers to there being two full size fields at Huntersville High School. Well, there's not. There's only one. Then other one was on page 222 of the business paper. It refers to Discover Hunters Hill, which I understand is in the process of being wound up. So it's probably inappropriate to address that. So yeah, they're just my comments on it.
Thank you, councillor Sanderson. Might be useful if you want to note them down and send them through by email to council. Yeah. Thank
Mr
you,
Mayor, can
councillor.
I just ask, I recall getting notified of this through an email from the general manager
Yes.
some time ago. I thought that went to all councillors. Now, I could be wrong because I'm on the committee, but I thought councillors were advised that it was out there, have a look at it, coming up at this meeting. Perhaps I'm wrong.
General manager.
I definitely got it because I'm on the committee.
I think that the committee, from memory, did send a email to the councillors' email. But
I can't recall, councillor Quinn. Obviously, it's been constantly communicated to the councillors on that specific committee. I can't recall whether it was sent to all the other councillors. If I had to think of the answer, I think the answer is no. It was only sent to the councillors on the committee.
I would also say, councillor, this process has been going on for a long time, and it certainly has been noted in the minutes of the Sports and Recreation Committee minutes several times. Because this is the last 3 meetings we've had this item come to us. Councillors, any further discussion or questions of the General Manager or the staff? If not, right of reply, councillor Crassoy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I think one of the functions of the Sport and Rec Committee was to update and revise this document for us. So both councillor Williams and Sanderson have picked up some points. I've picked up some points. Some items that have been, because this is just a revision of the 2013 document, there's some items that have slipped through from 2013 that are now out of date. And I think, you know, full councillors and members of the Community Support Council help us update the document and catch those couple of things that have slipped through and get it right. And I think it's really, what's the word, uplifting to see quite a focus on other sports, other forms of recreation in the community. I know some of my neighbours have formed a triathlon club. And so I told them when this document comes out, they should have a read of it and contribute their feedback to council, just like all of our reports for public exhibition. We catch all these tiny errors and make it the best document it can be in this month that we have to do so. So
Thank you
for the report
councillor.
and to the committee.
Thank you, councillor Crassoy. Pickleball is well represented on there too, which
Grown sport in the world.
which didn't exist as far as I know when we first went through this plan some 10 years ago. Councillors, I will put that motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried unanimously. Councillors, as there are no other items of business on the paper, is any general business items? If not, I will close the meeting at 6:22.